rend les choses faciles.
Et sèche-moi ces larmes de crocodile.
Welcome to Monson Made This. This video is going to look a little bit different, feel a little bit different, and you'll probably notice me looking off to the side because I'm filming this myself, keeping track of myself in the flip out screen on the side here. But I wanted to make a video this week, just a quick, easy recipe video. I'm actually filming this on Monday after work, and this is a traditional, I don't know if traditional is the right word, but this is a meal that I make often for myself in a quick hurry when I get home from work, just because it's fast, delicious, easy, and actually I can kind of make this recipe with whatever it is that I have on hand. Originally, this was a recipe that I came up with while I was trying to use some leftover sauce that I used in a recipe, and I'll link that above here, but the recipe was for a waffle chicken Benedict thing, and I made this Chipotle cream sauce to go with it. I had some left over in the fridge, ended up throwing it on some pasta the next day, and it was incredible. And then I went and tried to make that sauce again, but I didn't have the original ingredients, which were cashews. All I had were some tofu, so I threw tofu in there, an equivalent amount, and it actually turned out really great. Wanted to make it again a third time, didn't have tofu, didn't have cashews. Actually, I think I did have cashews that time, but I wanted to try it using a cauliflower cream base, and so I used a recipe. It's one of the recipe videos. I'll also link that, but it's a cauliflower cream sauce, so I just added some chipotle to that, and it came out awesome. So the point of all this is, and actually let me start chopping some onion while I talk about this. But the point of this is that vegan food's kind of cool in a lot of ways, especially with cream sauces. What's something that can be a mayonnaise, can become a gravy, can become pasta sauce. Like, you're using the similar ingredients for things like cashews or tofu or cauliflower or potatoes, and you're using that as a cream sauce base, and they're pretty interchangeable. So what, again, is one thing for one dish can be a completely other thing for another. So what's a hollandaise sauce on a chicken and waffles can become a pasta sauce in another dish. So I'm just gonna show you how to make one of the versions here, which is the tofu version. Excuse me, I think that's the easiest one to make, and it's what I have on hand. So I need to start by cutting some onion here. Again, I'm filming this myself, so I hope the focus works out. I have it so that the autofocus is on my face, but I need a half of an onion, and I'm just gonna roughly chop it here. And I need this to saute for just a little bit with some garlic. Also, I have hot water boiling behind me, which I forgot about. This sauce can pretty much be made in the amount of time it takes to cook the pasta, so when I get behind me to throw the onions on the stove, I'll throw the pasta in there as well. So again, a half an onion, kind of roughly chopped. This is all gonna get blended up in a bit, so I'm not too worried about how this comes out. And I'm not gonna be sauteing this with any oil. I'm just gonna kind of let it go by itself. Maybe I'll add a little bit of water if I feel that it needs it, but you know, trying to keep this a little bit healthier. All right, so here's my half onion, roughly chopped. Just gonna throw it in this pan and turn it to medium heat. Today I'm using a brown rice pasta. This is my favorite from Trader Joe's. It's their fusilli, and I'm just gonna use about a half bag of this. And the water's already boiling, and it's already salted as well, so looks about like a half bag. And you really do want to salt your water so that your pasta has flavor. This says cook 7 to 10 minutes, so set my timer for 10 minutes, see how it is. Also want to give it a bit of a stir so it doesn't stick. All right, so that's good. My onion is starting to warm up, and these can kind of work their magic while I assemble the other ingredients. I have the recipe written on my phone, so I'm just going to be referring to that. And I'll put this away in a minute. I do have 2 cloves of garlic, which I was sort of playing with at the beginning here. These are gonna go in with the onions about as soon as they soften up. And I'm gonna get my sauce ingredients together. They can all just be thrown in the blender, and then once the onions and garlic are ready to go, just blend it up, and that's it. So the first thing I need, and the recipe that I have written also, you'll see the variations with the cauliflower cream version, the cashew cream version, as well as the tofu one that I'm gonna be making. So, first thing I see here is a tablespoon of miso paste. And because I'm kind of just cooking on my own here, I'm not gonna measure too carefully, and I'm just gonna kind of use the things that I have around me. So this paddle, that's about a tablespoon. This is for the saltiness. If you don't have miso, you could use like a chicken better than bouillon, no chicken flavor. That'll work pretty well for this as well. Speaking of dogs, we're dog sitting. So if you hear a sound going on, that's Fievel. He likes to howl. He's our guest of the week. Stir these. Some of the miso can wipe off. All right, what's next? Cumin. 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin. Actually gonna need that in a bit, so I'll take that out. I've shown you these drawers before in my pantry tour. Sometimes it's a little harder to find the ingredients. Let's call that a 1/4 teaspoon. Next, I need roasted red bell pepper. And in the recipe, it says 2 tablespoons. Again, something that I eyeball. Say that's about 1 tablespoon. I'll be generous with this today. Let's say 2 tablespoons. Two tablespoons canned Chipotle chilies and adobo. I had made this sauce not too long ago, so I have some of these left over. What's left in the jar looks about right. My onions are actually getting a little bit of color in them. Okay, you just kind of want to give them a little bit of flavor, and you kind of just want to soften them a little bit. Funnel open. Red pepper flake for heat. I actually have some this ancho chili powder. I'm going to add a bit of that to chili flake because I like this spicy. Nutritional yeast. I need a tablespoon of this, or more. Sorry if this is making you sick. I'm watching the autofocus go all around, so hopefully it's not making anybody too ill. Let's get the garlic in there now. And I'm just gonna roughly chop this. This only needs to go in there for maybe a minute. Stir my pasta. All right, so I actually turned the stove off. Again, the garlic doesn't really need to cook. So most of the salt is going to come from that miso, although I'll probably add a little bit more later. I do want to add some black pepper. Also, don't forget that I salted the pasta, so a lot of the salt from the dish is gonna come from that as well. All right, so let's add these onions. Probably not the best tool for the job. I love these little paddles. Come with rice cookers or Instant Pots. So the pasta is said to cook for 7 to 10 minutes. It's been in there for about 7, so I'm just gonna start giving it a little bit of a taste. So how's the ways to go? All right, last thing the sauce needs. Actually, I thought this recipe called for lemon juice. It did, I forgot. Excuse me, Odie. Juice of half of a lemon. All right, now the tofu. So this is Mori New silken tofu. I always just buy the extra firm. I find with sauces and things like this, it doesn't really matter just because everything is getting blended up. So it doesn't matter if it's soft or firm. I find they all kind of play the same role. Also, if you notice, the sauce is not going to be too hot. Obviously, it's just getting blended. Everything is room temperature or even cold coming out of the fridge. So once this is all blended up, once the pasta is cooked, I'm actually gonna pour this into the pot, let it warm up a little bit before I toss the pasta in there. So. Nothing worse than overcooked pasta. All right, I'm going to start this out on low. See if I can do this without my plunger. Gradually increase. I just want to scrape down the sides a bit. Okay, pasta is done. I'm now going to strain it into the sink. And I'm actually just gonna let the pasta hang out there. My sauce is done. This amount makes enough for an entire pound of dry pasta, so I'm only gonna use about half of it. So I'm just gonna let that go, warm up a little bit, and then I'll toss the pasta in there. One of the secret ingredients of this, which is something that I also had as a leftover on hand, was these French fried onions. They are accidentally vegan, although they do contain palm oil. I prefer the ones from Trader Joe's, but they are seasonal, so I had to buy these today. I'm just gonna put this aside. You can see or hear some action going on over here. Add my pasta. With the pasta pretty hot too, you don't even really need to worry about warming it through. The warm pasta will heat the sauce up. really good. I'll make it a bowl. I'll dish it up, show you a close-up. If you do find that your sauce is a bit thin, by letting it cook a bit, it will reduce and thicken up. So if you notice that if you made any of these versions that it's just too watery, by all means, just cook it a little bit and it will thicken. If you find that it's too thick, obviously just add a bit of water. Sometimes reserving some of the pasta water is nice so that you can use that to thin it out, and it'll also add some warmth. All right, so I'm gonna sprinkle some of these French fried onions on top. I did buy some cilantro at the store, but I don't really feel like cutting that up right now. I've had a long day at work, just ready to dig in. So let me grab the camera and show you a nice close-up of this. Hopefully the autofocus works. So here you have my spicy Chipotle cream sauce pasta, and you can make it any of 3 ways, and it's topped with some amazing French fried onions. See if I can get some nice shots like Ben would. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to dig in. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully that it works out. Hopefully the autofocus isn't too crazy. And yeah, so Tuffy, our puppy, he's not feeling too well. He has lymphoma, and then he recently got bladder stones on top of that, so he's had to stay in the hospital. It's just been a lot to deal with emotionally. So, but I didn't want to take a break from this. You know, the channel's growing. It's nice that I'm getting a lot of reception from people, so it also keeps me a little bit sane to be able to have this outlet. So hopefully you try this. Recipe will be linked below, as well as the other recipes that sort of go along with this. So I'm gonna enjoy this. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week with another recipe video.